Hi, I'm going to read Dear Martin by Nick Stone, Part 1, Chapter 1. From where he is standing across the street, Justice can see her. Mellow Taylor, ex girlfriend, slumped over beside her bins on the damp concrete of the Farm Fresh parking lot. She's missing a shoe, and the contents of her purse are scattered around her like the guts of a pulled party popper. He knows she's stone drunk, but this is too much, even for her. Justice shakes his head, remembering the judgment all over his best friend Manny's face as he left Manny's house not 15 minutes ago. The walk symbol appears. As he approaches, she opens her eyes and he waves and pulls his earbud out just in time to hear her say, "What the hell are you doing here?" Justice asks himself the same question as he watches her try and fail to shift to her knees. She falls over sideways and hits her face on the car door. He drops down and reaches for her cheek, which is as red as a candy apple paint job. "Damn, Mello, are you okay?" She pushes his hand away. "Why do you care?" Stung, Justice takes a deep breath. He cares a lot, obviously. If he didn't, he wouldn't have walked a mile from Manny's house at 3 in the morning. Manny's of the opinion that Mello is the worst thing that could ever happen to Just. So, of course, he refused to give his boy a ride. All to keep his drunken disaster of an ex from driving. He should walk away right now, Justice should, but he doesn't. "Jessa called me," he tells her. "That skank. Don't be like that, babe. She only called me because she cares about you." Justice had planned Jessa had planned to take Milo home herself, but Milo threatened to call the cops and say she had been kidnapped if Jessa didn't drop her off at her car. Mello can be a little dramatic when she's drunk. "I'm totally unfollowing her," she says, case in point. "In life and online, nosy bitch." Just shakes his head again. "I just came to make sure you got home okay." That's when it hits Just that while he might succeed at getting Mello home, he has no idea how he'll get back. He closes his eyes as Manny's words ring through his head. "This Captain Save-A-Ho thing is going to get you in a lot of trouble, dog." He looks Milo Mello over. She's now sitting with her head leaned back against the car door, half asleep, mouth open. He sighs. Even drunk, Just can't deny Mello's the finest girl he's ever laid eyes on, not to mention hands on. She starts to tilt, and Just catches her by the shoulder to keep her from falling. She's startled, looking at him wide eyed, and Just can see everything about her that initially caught his attention. Melo's dad is this Hall of Fame NFL linebacker, big black dude, but her mom is from Norway. She got Mrs. Taylor's milky Norwegian complexion, wavy hair the color of honey, and amazing green eyes that are kind of purple around the edge. But she has really full lips, a small waist, crazy curvy hips, and probably the nicest butt Jess has ever seen in his life. That's part of his problem. He gets too tripped up by how beautiful she is. He never would have dreamed a girl as fine as her would be into him. Now he's got the urge to kiss her, even though her eyes are red and her hair's a mess and she smells like vodka and cigarettes and weed. But when he goes to push her hair out of her face, she shoves his hand away. "Don't touch me, Justice." She starts shifting her stuff around on the ground. Lipstick, Kleenex, tampons, one of those circular thingies with the makeup on one half and the mirror on the other half, a flask. Ugh, where are my keys? Justice spots them in front of the back tire and snatches them up. "You're not driving, Mello." "Give them." She swipes the keys but falls into his arms instead. Justice props her against the car again and gathers the rest of her stuff to put back in her bag, which is large enough to hold a week's worth of groceries. What is it with girls and purses the size of duffel bags? He unlocks the car, tosses the bag onto the floor of the back seat, and tries to get Mellows up off the ground. And then everything goes really wrong really fast. First, she throws up all over the hoodie Just is wearing, which belongs to Manny, who specifically said, "Don't come back here with throw up on my hoodie." Perfect. Just takes off the sweatshirt and tosses it in the back seat. When he tries to pick Mello up again, she slaps him hard. "Leave me alone, Justice," she says. "I can't do that, Mel. There's no way you'll make it home if you try to drive yourself." He tries to lift her up by the armpits and she spits in his face. He considers walking away again. He could call her parents, stick her keys in his pocket, and bounce. Oak Ridge is probably the safest neighborhood in Atlanta. She'd be fine for 25 minutes. It would take Mr. Taylor to get here. But he can't. Despite Manny's assertion that Mello needs to suffer some consequences for once, leaving her here all vulnerable doesn't seem like the right thing to do. So he picks her up and tosses her over his shoulder. Mello responds in her usual delicate fashion. She screams and beats him on the back with her fists. Justice struggles to get to the back door open and is lowering her into the car when he hears a whoop of a short siren and sees the blue lights. In a few seconds, it takes the police car to screech to a stop behind him. Justice settles Mello into the back seat. She's now gone catatonic. Justice can hear the approaching footsteps, but he stays focused to get Mello strapped in. He wants to be clear to the cop that she wasn't going to drive, so she wouldn't be in even worse trouble. Before he can get his head out of the car, he feels a tug on his shirt and is yanked backwards. His head smacks the door frame just before a hand clamps down on the back of his neck. His upper body slams onto the trunk with so much force it bites the inside of his cheek and his mouth fills with blood. Justice swallows, head spinning, unable to get his bearings back. The sting of cold metal around his wrist pulls him back into reality. Handcuffs. It hits him. Mellow's drunk beyond belief in the backseat of a car she fully tended to drive, yet Just is the one in handcuffs. The cop shoves him to the ground beside the police cruiser as he asks if Justice understands his rights. Justice doesn't remember hearing any rights, but his ears had been ringing from the two blows to the head, so maybe he missed them. He swallows more blood. "Officer, this has been a big misunderstanding," he starts to say, but he doesn't get to finish because the officer hits him in the face. "Don't you say shit to me, you son of a bitch. I knew your punk ass was up to no good when I saw you walking down the road with that goddamn hood on. So the hood was a bad idea." Earbuds, too. Probably would have noticed he had been trailing me without them. "But, officer, You keep your mouth shut." The cop squats down and gets right in Justice's face. "I know your kind. Punks like you wandered the streets of a nice neighborhood searching for prey. Just couldn't resist this pretty little white girl who locked her keys in her car, could you?" Except that doesn't even make any sense. If Mel had locked her keys in her car, Just wouldn't have been able to get her inside of it, would he? Just finds the officer's nameplate, Castillo. It reads, "Though the guy looks like a regular white dude, Mama told him how to handle this type of situation, though. He must admit he'd never expect to actually need the advice. Be respectful, keep the anger in check, and make sure the police see your hands. Though that's impossible right now. Officer Castillo, I mean you no disrespect. I told your punk ass to shut the fuck up." He wishes he could see Mello, get her to tell this cop the truth, but the dude's blocking his view. "Now, if you know what's good for you, you won't move or speak. Resistance will only land you in deeper shit. Got it?" Cigarette breath and flicks of spit hit Justice's face as the cops speak, but Justice fixes his gaze on the glowing green F of the Farm Fresh sign. Look at me when I'm talking to you, boy. He grabs Justice's chin. I asked you a question. Justice swallows, meets the cold blue of Officer Castillo's eyes, and clears his throat. Yes, sir, he says. I got it. August 25th. Dear Martin, aka Dr. King, first and foremost, please know that I mean you no disrespect with the whole Martin thing. I've studied you and your teaching for a project in 10th grade, so it feels almost natural to interact with you as a homie. Hope you don't mind that. Quick intro. My name is Justice McAllister. I'm a 17-year-old high school senior, and full scholarship student at Brazelton Preparatory Academy in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm ranked fourth in my graduating class out of 83. I'm captain of the debate team. I scored a 1560 and a 34 on my SAT and ACT, respectively. And despite growing up in a bad area not too far from your old stomping ground, I have a future ahead of me that will likely include an Ivy League education, an eventual law degree, and a career in public policy. Sadly, during the wee hours of the morning, literally none of that mattered. Long story short, I tried to do a good deed and wound up on the ground in handcuffs, and despite the fact that my ex girlfriend was visibly drunk off her ass, excuse my language, I apparently looked so menacing in my prep school hoodie, the cop who cuffed me called for backup. The craziest part is while I think everything would be cool as soon as her parents got there, no matter what they told the cops, these dudes would not release me. Mr. Taylor offered to call my mom, but the cops made it clear that since I'm 17, I'm considered an adult, and when placed under arrest, aka there is nothing mom could do. Mr. Taylor wound up calling my friend SJ's mom, Mrs. Friedman, an attorney, and she had to come bark at a bunch of legal hoo ha in the cop's face before they'd undo the cuffs. By the time they finally let me go, the sun was coming up. It had been hours, Martin. Mrs. F didn't say a whole lot as she drove me to the dorm, but she made me promise to go by the infirmary and get some cold packs for my swollen wrist. I'd call Mama to tell her what happened, and she said she'd file a complaint first thing in the morning, but I doubt it'll do any good. Frankly, I'm not sure what to feel. Never thought I'd be in this kind of situation. There was this kid, Shamar Carson, black dude, my age, shot and killed in Nevada by this white cop back in June. The details are hazy since there wasn't any witnesses, but it's clear that this cop shot an unarmed kid 4 times. Even fishier, according to the medical examiner, there was a 2 hour gap between the estimated time of death and when the cops called it in. Before the incident last night, I hadn't really thought much about it. There's a lot of conflicting information, so it's hard to know what to believe. Shamar's family and friends said he was a good dude, headed to college, active in his youth group, but the cops claimed he caught Shamar trying to steal a car. A scuffle ensued, allegedly, and according to the police report, Shamar tried to grab the cop's gun, so the cop shot Shamar in self-defense. I don't know. I've seen some pictures of Shamar Carson, and he did have this kind of thuggish appearance. In a way, I guess I thought I didn't really need to concern myself with this type of thing because compared to him, I don't come across as threatening, you know. I don't sag my pants, I don't wear my clothes super big, I go to a good school, I have good visions and goals and a great head on my shoulder, as mama likes to say. Yeah, I grew up in a rough area, but I know I'm a good dude, Martin. I thought if I made sure to be an upstanding member of society, I'd be exempt from the stuff those black guys deal with, you know. Really hard to swallow that I was wrong. All I can think is how different it would have been had gone had I not been black. I know initially the cop could only go by what he see, which probably did seem a little sketchy, but I've never had my character questioned like that before. Last night changed me. I don't want to walk around all pissed off and looking for problems, but I know I can't continue to pretend nothing's wrong. Yeah, there are no more colored water fountains, and it's supposed to be illegal to discriminate. But if I can be forced to sit on concrete in too tight cuffs when I've done nothing wrong, it's clear that there's an issue. that things aren't as equal as folks say. I need to pay more attention, Martin. Start really seeing stuff and writing it down. Figure out what to do with it. That's why I'm writing to you. You faced way worse,